Hello Pathfinders, welcome to our honor presentations. Today we are going to be going through the nutrition honor. My name is Uncle Masoroze, and today we want to learn more about nutrition. But before we begin, we want to appreciate what we are going to be learning, what is required in this honor, and what should we know when the honor is done. So before we start, you will need to pray. Before we start the honor, let us pray. Dear Jesus, we thank you this time. We want to invite you as we learn, as we'll be learning about our bodies, the food that we should eat, and the importance of all these things. May your name be glorified, and may we become better pathfinders because we have learned these things in Jesus' name. Amen. So the nutrition honor is an interesting honor. It is an honor where we are going to be learning about food, what food is used for in our bodies, how much food should we eat, and what's good food and bad food for us as pathfinders. So the requirements of the honor are very interesting. We have a few requirements. One of them is you need to be able to talk about the food pyramid. What is the food pyramid guide? It has a number of forms. We also need to talk about how much food someone should eat on any given day. And we talk about a balanced diet. What is a balanced diet? And we also talk about different types of vegetarians. There is what we call a lacto-ovo vegetarian. There is what we call an ovo vegetarian. And then a vegan vegetarian. We'll learn about those things. Then you also need to be able to practice the things we are learning in this honor. So you need to plan a meal. So two menus for 2 days. So you need to plan a whole day's menu using the things we have learned here. And then we also need to learn about the different types of vitamins that we come across and where do we get them, these vitamins. And we learn about different types of nutrients, the importance of drinking water, and how much water we should drink on a daily basis. And also sometimes if you don't eat the right types of food in the right quantities of the right quality, sometimes you end up getting diseases. What kind of diseases are common for people who don't eat food properly? Then there's an interesting one where we are going to learn about the types of flour, wheat flour that we come across. And an interesting term called RDA, required daily average, in terms of the food that we eat on a daily basis. So those are the things that are covered in this honor. So let's jump straight into it. The first thing we want to talk about is food. All right. What's your favorite food, and how do we go about the idea of eating the right amount of food on a daily basis? Okay, so we want to talk about food itself. What did God mean, or what was His plan when He gave us food? So Genesis 1 verse 29, the Bible is very clear. I'm reading from the RSV. It says, "Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree which with seed in its fruit, you shall have them for food." So God, when He created people, He gave them food. So there was a reason why God gave them food. And also you realize that if you read Corinthians, it says God has given us these bodies so that we look after them. They are the temple of the Holy Spirit. So we want to then talk about the guidelines for food. So this honor wants us to appreciate food in its various forms. And what we are also learning are things like, a balanced diet. What is a balanced diet? So the first thing we learn from the concept of a balanced diet is having the right food in the right quantities with the right mix of nutrients. That is a balanced diet. So when we learn about the balanced diet, we are trying to appreciate the various nutrients that our bodies need. And our bodies, generally, there are about 6 nutrients, all right? There are vitamins, there are proteins, there are carbohydrates, there are fats, all right? And then you realize that those nutrients have to be in your body for your body to function well. So when we talk about eating the right things, when we're talking about a balanced diet, you should eat food that has these nutrients put together, where you have fruits and vegetables. this should be the biggest part of the things that you eat when you are eating your food, fruits and vegetables. Then on the other side, you want carbohydrates. And carbohydrates, we find them in bread, rice, potatoes, and these are the foods that have a lot of fiber in them as well. You want to have those. And then the other way in which we also, so we find the biggest component is fruits and vegetables, followed by your carbohydrates. Then you also need to have, dairy, and sometimes dairy alternatives, but we do have a mix. Dairy alternatives sometimes include the soya-based, types of milks that you can have. So plant-based is what we usually encourage, but if they are not there, you can also use dairy. Then you also need to have proteins, and we usually encourage also plant-based proteins, so your beans, various forms. Sometimes you can use the eggs. Some people do use meat if you don't have the alternatives. And then at times you have those other things that you eat once in a while just to excite yourself. At least eat a very small amount of these things, your chips, your chocolates and those kinds of things. Yes, people do eat them, but you don't encourage a lot of them. So the type of plate that you should have when you are eating as a Christian and also a Pathfinder, you realize that there are guides that help us in coming up with our plates. One of them is what we call the Eat Well Guide. So it comes with these types of foods and the mixes of the foods that you get there. So the first portion that we were dealing with here talks about the dietary guidelines. What should you eat and in what forms? So we've talked about them. Let's highlight them again. Fruits and vegetables, very key component of what you should eat. Starches, they should be big there as well. Whole wheat bread, rice, whole grain rice, potatoes. You should also have dairy and dairy alternatives, but we encourage plant-based. Then you also need proteins, and then you need fats in your body. And we are saying, if at all you eat some of these things, you spoil yourself once in a while, don't eat many of them, the chips, the chocolates, and the things that people like. Then requirement number 2 on your order worksheet says, asks you how many things, how big should be the quantities of things that you serve when you are eating your food. So that's what we want to talk about, how big should the serving be. So you realize that when you are eating food, it comes with a required amounts, the number of servings that are required from each food group. Remember, we're talking about food and what we should be having, how much of it should we be having. So there are different food categories. So the fruits and vegetables, on that owner worksheet is going to ask you for the number of servings you require. You require 3 to 5 servings per day in terms of fruits and vegetables. And then we are also talking about what we call carbohydrates. We call these base meals, and they are usually based on whole grain food. So we are looking for the food that comes with its in its complete form, without it being refined, and try to eat as much of this as possible where you can. And you need about 6 to 11 servings. So your on our worksheet is going to say how many servings do you need there. You need about 6 to 11 servings of each. And then sometimes you need dairy or alternatives. Remember what we have said, plant-based is better. And you always want to eat foods that have got lower fat and they don't have a lot of sugar in them. So from the dairy side of things, or the alternatives, so when I say alternatives, I'm talking about soya-based milk, coconut-based milk, if you can get it. You need about 2 to 3 servings of those. And then you also need protein, and this includes different types, but usually we are also encouraging the plant-based. If you don't have the plant-based, sometimes you can use the fish, sometimes others use meat if you can, but you need about 2 to 3 servings a day of the protein. So make sure when you are eating your food, you are getting the right quantities of the right things all the time. So when it comes to fats is a bit of a dangerous type of food if you don't treat it well. So you need to be careful. When we deal with fats, you want to use them sparingly. So we will not give you an exact amount of servings, but what we encourage you is eat it in small amounts. All right? Then when it comes to water and fluids, please try to drink 6 to 8 cups or glasses of fluid a day. And we are not fixed to say 6 or 8, but we are saying depending on who you are. Sometimes also it's dependent on the types of bodies that we have, but they should be in the range of 6 to 8 glasses of water, or somewhere close to 2 liters. So 1.5 to 2 liters of water. Make sure you drink lots of water, and try to minimize, sugary, salty things. They've got the bad effects on you. So we are using guidelines of how to eat and what you should eat. So that requirement is asking you for the portions and how much you should be eating. Then the next requirement that we are going for asks us the importance of a balanced diet. Why should we eat a balanced diet? Remember, we said a balanced diet is eating the right amounts of food in the right proportions when it comes to those nutrients. So you need vitamins in your body. Why does the body need vitamins? Vitamins are important because they keep our bodies working efficiently. So the bodies need to work correctly, and vitamins are part of the food group that helps that. And we also talk about carbohydrates. These are what we also call energy-giving foods. So vitamins are sometimes called protective foods because they protect the body and help it to work well. Carbohydrates are called energy-giving foods. They give us energy, you see from the names. And we also need to eat food that helps strengthen our bones. And usually these are the minerals that we get, calcium and sodium from salt, but not too much of it. And you also need proteins in your body. Proteins are the part of the food that we get that helps to build our bodies for growth. If your body is growing, it needs a lot of proteins because they are used for tissue building and for growth of your body as well. And you also need to drink a lot of water. Water helps in the preservation of diseases and dehydration. We'll talk more about water, but we are just mentioning the importance of a balanced diet. So you also need food helps your body fight diseases. Food helps your body to keep the right weight. We'll learn about that as well. So we're just learning about the importance of a balanced diet. So the next thing we need to learn in our honor is the issue to do with the different types of vegetarian diets. All right. So we always encourage, where possible, please make sure that you move to a plant-based diet. It helps you to be much healthier, if possible. So we'll talk about what does it mean to be a vegetarian and what kind of vegetarian diets do we have out there. So the first one we are talking about is what we call the lacto-ovo vegetarian diet. So in this type of diet, you are eating dairy products as well as eating eggs, all right, over and above the other things that we are eating. So the carbohydrates are there, the vitamins are there, the vegetables, fruits and veggies are there. But on top of it, if you are a lacto-ovo vegetarian, you include dairy and you also include eggs. So we are saying you are a vegetarian who also uses dairy. That's where it comes the name lacto-ovo vegetarian, all right? There's also another type of vegetarian diet where you don't use any other animal product except dairy only. So you don't do eggs, you only do dairy. So you are a lacto-vegetarian. Lacto-vegetarian. So you only eat dairy products, but you don't use eggs. So the lacto-ovo vegetarian is dairy products and eggs. The lacto-vegetarian, only dairy, no eggs. Then there's another type of vegetarian that we call the ovo vegetarian. So you see the mixes now. Ovo means you are not taking dairy, but you take eggs. So no meat, you are not using any meat in the vegetarian diet, but over and above the plant-based diet, you are adding eggs. So you are an ovo vegetarian. If you add dairy only and no eggs, you are a lacto-vegetarian. If you add both eggs and dairy, you are a lacto-ovo vegetarian. And then there is the last type of vegetarian diet where you don't take any animal products. We call that the vegan vegetarian diet. So you don't take eggs, you don't take dairy, no animal products, only plant-based diet. This one was the original diet that God gave people, but as sin came and food also became scarce, people started using other forms of foods which they never used to. But these are all vegetarian types of diets. So we've learned about the different vegetarian diets that we can get. Alright, so from this onward now, we now need to learn about the importance of food. What do we get from food? So from food we get what we call nutrients. Alright, so nutrients come in two forms. They are what we call macronutrients. When we say macro, it's a word that means big. So these are things that we require in large amounts. So macronutrients include carbohydrates, all right? So these are the energy-giving foods. you need proteins, these are the body-building food, you need fats. So fats usually help you with warmth, you get warm if you get warm from eating fats. So you need this in large amounts, and usually the amount is also determined by the activities that you do. So if you do a lot of work, you need a lot of carbohydrates. If you don't do a lot of work, you don't need a lot of carbohydrates. So these are the macronutrients. And there are also what we call micronutrients. Micro means small, macro, big, micro, small. So the macronutrients, we've talked about the proteins, carbohydrates, fats. Then the micronutrients are the ones that they are very essential, but you need them in small quantities. We'll learn about why you should eat them in the right quantities. So vitamins are a type of micronutrients that your body needs. These help regulate and support the chemical reactions in your body. Did you know that your body has a lot of chemical reactions that take place in it? And those chemical reactions, for them to work properly, you need vitamins, all right? You also need some types of minerals, okay? Fluorides, zinc, chlorides, sodium, and these are the elements that also promote chemical reactions, and they also form part of the body structures. Remember, bones, they need sodium, bones, they need calcium, bones, they need also a bit of chloride. So you find that these are the purposes of minerals in the food that we eat. So these ones, we need them in small quantities, all right? Micrograms when you are eating them in your diet. So we've talked about the types of nutrients that we come across. So that's the requirement of nutrients, macronutrients, micronutrients. Then the next requirement of the owner is it talks about where do we get these nutrients. So we want to talk about 3 significant sources of certain types of nutrients. So where do we get vitamins? That's the first one we are talking about. Where do we get vitamins? So we said one type of vitamin that's critical is what we call vitamin C. So what's the purpose of vitamin C? Vitamin C is a mineral or a micronutrient that you need in your body. Its purpose is to help your body absorb iron, all right? Your body needs iron, and iron is used for making blood. So if you eat enough amounts of vitamin C, your body will be able to absorb iron from the food. And if you don't have enough iron, you will suffer from a disease that is called scurvy, all right? And also vitamin C is important because it helps the body in improving its immune system and improving the way the body uses the food. We call it metabolism. Metabolism is when your body uses the nutrients that it has. And also you realize that vitamin C dissolves in water. So when do we get vitamin C? Vitamin C usually comes from citrus foods. So when we say citrus, we are talking about oranges, we are talking about lemons, we are talking about, sometimes the fruits that come from that, the kiwi fruit, sometimes the grapefruit is also important, and all other fruits as well can contribute. Mangoes, strawberries, red pepper is a vegetable which is also a fruit, interesting, and broccoli also gives us a lot of vitamin C, and sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes, I think from an African perspective, we understand that we do a lot of sweet potatoes, we get vitamin C from those. All right, vitamin A. Vitamin A, why is it important to have vitamin A in your body? Vitamin A helps with eyesight. So this helps you to see properly, and it's also important for your bones, all right? And it helps the reproduction system to improve and keeps the immune system well. So vitamin A helps us in many ways, but the most important one is vision, all right? And when do we get vitamin C? Vitamin A comes from all yellow foods, yellowish kinds of foods. So which yellow foods do we know? Carrots, the sweet potato can be yellow at times, the pumpkin is yellow, apricots are yellow, mangoes are yellow, pawpaws are yellow, and the other interesting one which is not yellow but gives us a lot of vitamin A is spinach. So it's green but it has a lot of vitamin A, all right? And then we also talk about vitamin B1. So vitamin B1 is an interesting vitamin, and it has another name. So if you look on your worksheet, there is a space where it says what is the other name for vitamin B1. The other name for vitamin B1 is thiamine. Thiamine, thiamine, thiamine. All right. Why is it important in your body? It helps with the digestion of carbohydrates. All right, and it also helps your nerves. So you know that your body has got nerves. So your brain talks to your body parts
other organs of the body through nerves. And those nerves, they need to work well. So how does a nerve work? Let's say you touch a hot stove and then it's hot. There are nerves on your skin, on your fingertips here, that will send a message to the brain to say, what you have touched is hot, remove your hand. And it moves very fast at a very high speed. So if your nerves are working well, if you touch something hot, you remove it. If you are pricked by something, a thorn or a pin, you remove your hand or foot quickly because the nerves are working. So if you have enough vitamin B1, your nerves will work well. And it also helps in the function of the heart. So where do we get vitamin B1? We get it from soya milk. We can get vitamin B1. We can get it from sunflower seeds. You also get it from various types of legumes. So your beans, your peas, your cowpeas, all those, they give you vitamin B1. Also whole grain carbohydrates. So wheat, whole wheat bread. You see, so it's important to eat these carbohydrates as whole grain foods because they give you other things that you may not see. Besides just getting carbohydrates, you also get vitamin B1. And sometimes these days, they make cereals that are called fortified cereal foods. So they will say it's fortified with vitamin B1. If you eat those, you also get vitamin B1. All right? And the next question, I think, on your worksheet is saying, what is the other name for vitamin B2? Vitamin B2 is also called riboflavin. So riboflavin, R-I-B-O-F-L-A-V-I-N. It helps also with the digestion of carbohydrates. And where do we get it? Usually we get it from different types of milk sources. So soya milk or even dairy milk. Some people do eat yogurt. You can get B2 from there. Mushrooms are an interesting source of vitamin B2. Spinach as well. And some types of fortified cereals. So sometimes you get Fit Bix. You also get a bit of B2 there, and eggs also are a good source. And iron is another interesting type of mineral that you need in your body. Where do you get it? You get it from the dark green vegetables. So spinach, green beans, broccoli, they give you a lot of iron there. Also, if you eat tofu, if you can have access to tofu, you also get a lot of iron. And potatoes also give you a bit of iron. There is a type of beans called kidney beans. You also get a lot of iron from there. Some people don't have access to this. You can use red meat, but our encouragement is always to go the plant-based route. All right. What is the purpose of iron in our bodies? Things like beetroot, the red things, have a lot of iron. Iron helps in the transportation of oxygen. Your body needs oxygen. So when you breathe in oxygen and it goes into your lungs and goes into your blood, for it to go to the various parts of your body, you need iron. And iron is important. It is used in forming an oxygen-carrying element in your body called hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is what carries the blood around, the oxygen around your body, and helps your body to work well. And the last nutrient we are talking about under that requirement is calcium. All right? Did you know that most of the calcium you eat in your food is used, 99% of it is used in the development of bones and teeth. So if you don't have enough calcium, you will get weak bones and weak teeth. So calcium is very important for your bone structure. The bone structure is what carries your body around. So if your bones are not strong, your body is not going to be as upright and strong as you would want it to be. All right. Calcium is also very important. If you get hurt, so you realize when you learn first aid that you need to treat bleeding because bleeding is dangerous. One of the things that your body does to stop bleeding is what we call clotting. So in your body, your blood, coagulates, it comes together and prevents the blood from coming out in the area that you have been cut. So calcium is also very important for that. It's also important for your nerves and for the way your muscles contract. So contraction of muscles is this movement. For this to move, your bicep muscle should contract, and that requires calcium, all right? And your muscles need that as well. So it is also very important to get a lot of calcium. So where do we get it? We usually get it from alternative sources of milk. You can get plant-based, cheese, plant-based, soy milk, all those they've got a lot of calcium. Tofu has a lot of it. Broccoli has a lot of it. Green beans and almonds, if you get them. If you are a lacto-ovo vegetarian, the dairy will give you a bit of calcium as well. But we'll learn about why you should eat the right quantities. So let's talk about water. let's talk about water. Why does your body need water? Why does your body need water? I will mention a few reasons why your body needs water, but I'm sure you can tell by now, and you also know why your body needs water, all right? Your body has a lot of chemical processes that take place in it. So water maintains those chemical processes. It's important to have water. Your body also needs to have the right amount of blood, about 12 liters of blood, and water helps in maintaining the blood volume. Water also makes sure that your body temperature is okay. All right, the body temperature is usually 36.9 degrees or 37 degrees. So your body temperature is important, and water helps in that process as well. Water is also useful in the removal of waste in your blood and your body. And water is also important for helping in digesting food. All right, and in pregnant women, as the tummy gets bigger, there's the baby is in a fluid called amniotic fluid, and there's a lot of water in that fluid. So you see, water is very important in our bodies. And what can we do to prevent, these types of lifestyle kind of diseases that can arise if we don't have the right amounts of these nutrients that we are learning about? All right. So there are different types of diseases that can occur in a person who is not eating the right amounts of nutrients, or is eating too much of them or too little of them. One of them is if you eat a lot of fat. Eating too much fat causes them to be deposited into your blood, and then they start sitting in your blood vessels. So your blood vessel is like a hose pipe, all right? It's like a hose pipe. So it needs to be cleaned for the water to pass through. But if there are things that are there in the hose pipe, you realize that it becomes difficult for the water to come out. Sometimes it even stops coming out. And for that to be the case in our blood vessels, fat is like that kind of thing that blocks the hose pipe, because your blood vessels should be able to move the water around. So if you don't have, if you eat too much fat, it will become what is called cholesterol. And that cholesterol, if it stops the movement of blood in your blood vessels, your heart might stop working. We call these cardiovascular diseases. All right? So what we need to do is to eat the right amounts of food. We need to reduce the amount of fat that we eat and the amount of sugar that we eat. We also want to avoid animal fats, especially animal fats. They are the dangerous ones. We call them saturated fats. All right? They sit more in your blood vessels than plant-based fats. So always eat more plant types of fats than animal fat. Animal fat usually comes from a lot of meat eating, so it's saturated, it's dangerous for you. How else do we solve cardiovascular diseases? We eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and whole grains. So one type of diet-linked disease is cardiovascular disease. The other one is, so cardio means heart, so it's a disease to do with the heart. The other one is what we call hypertension. Hyper means high tension, so there is too much pressure in your blood vessels. And that also comes from what we were just talking about. So hypertension and cardiovascular disease, they usually come together, and you want to avoid eating too much fat. The most dangerous type of food that causes hypertension is salt. So you should not eat a lot of salt. If you eat a lot of salt, it makes your blood vessels stiff. So if you ever seen a hose pipe when it's now stiff and it's not flexible, you can even break it. So hypertension can lead to the rupture of blood vessels. So if you eat too much salt, it will stiffen the walls of your blood vessels, and they can crack, and you find yourself. So how do we solve hypertension? Through what we eat. Reduce salt, reduce fats and sugar intake, reduce animal fats, increase vegetables, whole grains, and fruits. So you see, God was very clear when He said, when He started, He gave us fruits to eat. All these things will not be here if we stick to what God has told us to eat. What else can you suffer from if you don't eat the right amounts of nutrients? There is what we call anemia. Anemia means your body has very little iron. Remember, we said iron is used in the transportation of oxygen. So if you don't have enough iron, you will not be able to, have enough oxygen in your body, and that can also cause you to have different types of diseases. One of them is you just generally feel tired if you don't have enough oxygen because you have less iron in your body. Sometimes you struggle to breathe. We call it shortness of breath. Sometimes your heart starts beating faster than normal because it's not getting enough oxygen. So what should we do? Eat iron-rich foods. Which ones are those? We mentioned them. Spinach is one of them. The dark green vegetables, all right? Beetroot is also an interesting one. Also eat a lot of vitamin C, because vitamin C helps in the absorption of iron, all right? And if you find that your body is now very weak, please take iron supplements to make sure there's enough iron in your body. All right, so calcium, we talked about it. If you don't have enough calcium in your body, you can have what we call osteoporosis. So when we say osteo, we are talking about bones now. It means your bones are not strong. They are very weak. They break easily. So not eating enough calcium can lead to osteoporosis. So please make sure that you eat enough calcium, and you find it in milk. Sometimes you get a lot of soya milk. If you don't have it, you can even take dairy, but don't take too much of it. All right. Other diseases could be diabetes. But let's talk about wheat and flour. Wheat and flour is an interesting discussion, because you need to eat whole wheat bread. So we want to talk about the difference between whole wheat flour and white flour. So you've seen white flour, you've seen brown flour. How are they different? So you'll see that on the diagram that's coming up. A grain of wheat has got three components. It has got what is called bran, that's outer casing. Then it has what is called an endosperm, all right? And then it has what is called a germ, all right, which is the part that germinates. So when you are eating whole wheat flour, you are eating these three things. If you are eating white flour, you are only eating the endosperm. So the difference between whole wheat flour and white flour is the whole wheat flour contains all the parts of the grain: the bran, the germ, and the endosperm, all right? White flour only contains mostly the endosperm, all right? Because the bran and the germ are removed when it is being milled. So whole grain flour has more fiber, more micronutrients. Remember those micronutrients, the ones that you wear in small amounts? Brown bread is good for that, whole wheat bread. And so you need to eat more whole wheat flour than white flour, all right? Okay, so there's a term that you're supposed to define on a worksheet. It's called the dietary reference value, or the reference intake. What do those mean? All right, so when we are talking about reference intake, so reference intake, all right, this is the amount that is enough to ensure that, the majority of the population gets enough of the nutrients they require, all right? So people ask, those that come up with these things, they ask you questions like, how much should an individual eat per day of the energy-giving foods, the fat-giving foods, carbohydrates, sugar, protein? All those come in different forms. So if you look at that slide that's coming up there, it shows you the reference intake, how much you need as an individual. And the DRVs, dietary reference values, these are estimates, all right, of the nutritional requirements for different groups of people in a population. So you realize that because we are different, some are children, some are adults, because we come in different forms, we have requirements that we require. So when you are eating food, it's based on a number of things. One of them, how old are you? Determines how much food you should eat. How big is your body? Determines how much food you should eat. How active are you? Determines how much food you should eat. What kind of gender? Are you a man or a woman? It also determines the amount of food that you should eat. And generally, how is your body like? So people have different metabolic rates. So this is the rate at which food is digested in your body. So you eat food based on who you are and what you are. So we usually don't say everyone eat 20 grams of carbohydrates. We say based on who you are, how much food should you eat. That is what we call the dietary reference value. All right. So why is it important not to eat too much of all of these things? All right. So remember, we learned about temperance. So we say temperance is eating the right amount of food, or is the judicial use of a substance. So if it's food, eating the right amounts of food at the right time, that's temperance. So why should we not eat too much vitamin? If you eat too much vitamin A, sometimes if it's a pregnant woman, they will have defective babies, your nerves can be affected, your liver can fail to function, you can have skin disorders if you eat too much vitamin A. So be careful how much vitamin A you eat. Remember, we said it comes from yellow foods. Vitamin D You get that from the sun and other food substances. If you eat too much of it, your bones also get weaker. So the right amount strengthens your body. Too much of it weakens the body, the bones and the heart. Alright, vitamin E, it reduces blood clotting. If you eat too much of it, your body will not be able to stop bleeding. Alright, it also makes you weak. If you eat too much vitamin C, you can get diarrhea. If you eat too much vitamin B6, your nerves can be damaged. Alright, minerals, different types of minerals. Remember the micronutrients, iron. If you eat too much iron, you can get a tummy upset, you can get constipation. You can even get into a coma if you eat too much iron. Fluoride, be careful how much fluoride you eat. Usually we get a lot of fluoride from the toothpaste. Toothpaste are made with fluorine. So if you eat too much fluoride, your teeth can get weaker because fluoride has a chemical reaction with calcium and you end up losing calcium and your teeth get weak. Don't eat too much zinc. It will stop the absorption of other micronutrients. Too much sodium, that's what you get in salt. You get high blood pressure, hypertension. Alright, so be careful how much of these foods you eat. Alright, so now that we know what to eat, so let's plan what we can eat. We are now coming to the end of the honor. We need to plan a menu for 2 days. Alright, and it needs to contain a balanced lacto-ovo vegetarian diet. And you are going to do this using some of the guides. One of the guides is the Eat Well guide. So let's say you are on a 2-day camping trip. You want to plan a lacto-ovo vegetarian diet. What can you put in those foods? Alright, so let's talk about breakfast on day 1. What can you put in there? You can put a bit of mushroom, you can put a bit of eggs, or you can make an omelette. Then you put whole wheat bread. You can toast it if you like it, if that's how you like it. And then also you are dealing now with your carbohydrates. So remember, you plan. You want carbohydrates, you want proteins, you want vegetables, you want fruits and dairy, you want fluids. Those are the things that you include when you are planning that menu. So on carbohydrates, please make sure that you put whole wheat bread as well. And you can even add other snacks, but not too many of them. Then if it's lunchtime, alright, you need to have maybe a sandwich. You can put a sandwich that is what maybe you have a bit of salad to eat and you add a fruit to eat. Alright, and others sometimes get different types of things. There are other types of things you can put together. You can even put peanut butter on some of your carbohydrates. And then for dinner on that particular day, you can have for protein beans. You can have sometimes a vegetarian, a veggie pie, potato, or things like that. You can put it together. If you are someone who likes cheese, you can have plant-based cheese. All right, and then for a snack, you can take a bit of tea, or rooibos tea, and soy milk to eat. And maybe you can also get nice whole wheat biscuits. You can have those. On this particular day, please make sure that you drink lots of water. Alright, lots of water. It's always part of the diet that you are having. Then on the other day, if you are trying to plan for the next day, it's a weekend out. In the morning, you can have whole wheat, maybe a wheat mix, or you can use porridge. You put peanut butter in it, and then always add a bit of fruit there, add a banana. And then for lunch, you can prepare a wrap. Alright, so we are talking about wraps. Usually, if you go into the shops, you can get sort of like a tortilla. It's a flat thing. You can get it. You can put a wrap in there. You can put vegetables in it. You can put avocados. You can put red pepper, yellow pepper. Just make sure that your food is colorful when you eat it. And then you can add a bit of popcorn if you like it. You can have a good lunch wrap there. You can also add a boiled egg. Remember, it's a lacto-ovo vegetarian diet. For dinner, you can maybe get a potato, roasted potato. You add soy beans to it. You do a bit of a green salad. Also add different types of foods to it. And remember, when you are planning this, always have lots of water. Alright, so there are various types that you can put together when you are planning these menus, but always make sure that you do the right things. So I just thought maybe we could have an interesting one, just one type of cooking thing that you can do at home as we come up. I'm just giving you one recipe that you can learn when you are doing good cooking that you can do at home. So we want to make a broth that has got red lentils in it. So what do we do if you are making this one? So this is the Pathfinder at home. You want to cook your nice lovely meal there, that's lacto-ovo vegetarian meal. So what will you need? Alright, so you will see the things coming up on the screen. You need a cup of red lentils, that's about 200 grams. You need 3 cups of water. You can get coconut milk, soy milk, depending on where you are. You can also get 1 tomato, you chop it up, 1 onion, you chop it up, and 2 cloves of garlic. You can crush them or chop them up. Get 1 large potato, cut it into small cubes. Also get a number of veggies, chop them together. If you like curries, you can get garlic powder, you can get, you put them together there. Then you also get 1 juice from a lemon, alright, squeeze a lemon, then a pinch of salt, always use salt sparingly. Then you get 1 tablespoon of veggie oil. So we want to make this now. So what do we do? Alright, so for you to make this one, you need a very large bowl, you need a strainer, you need the things that you use in the kitchen. Your mom will usually have them in the kitchen. So what do? Take the red lentils, you put them in a large bowl, then put water in there, soak them for about 10 minutes. Alright, so using the strainer, drain the lentils and rinse them. So now make your soup. Take your pan, put it on the stove, add oil, that 1 tablespoon, put a bit of tomato sauce, and then cook it. You call it sauteing. So you cook it a bit until the soup is cooked. Add a bit of water, add the tomato, then bring it to boil. Right? When it has boiled, what you now do is you want your lentils now. Take those lentils together with your chopped potatoes, a bit of your spices, if you like them, mixed herbs and all those other things, a pinch of salt, and then you cook them together in that broth that you have made for about 10 minutes or so. Don't cook lentils for too long. And then you add your vegetables, the chopped ones, the nice ones, add your soy milk, coconut milk, a bit of the lemon juice. Cook again for another 10 minutes. So this is about a 30-minute session. And then once it is done, please serve this with whole wheat bread. So you see, one of your menus is already sorted for camping, going for a weekend out. So this is what Pathfinders can do. We hope and pray that you have learned this. Remember, our verse that we started in, God gave us this food for a very specific purpose. We pray that you have learned a lot of things in this order, and happy watching. Let's pray as we end. Thank you, dear Jesus, for this time that you've given us to learn about nutrition. We hope and pray that these things that we've learned will help us to grow spiritually, physically, socially, and become the responsible people you want us to be as Pathfinders. We've prayed for this in Jesus' name. Bye, everyone.